back to my channel, friends, and a huge and very special thank you to all of you who have been with me this entire week. This has been so fun launching the channel with a week-long tutorial series, and I really hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I have enjoyed making it for you. Today, I'm going to show you how to sand and polish the set of dice we just made. I had originally planned on showing you the entire process with all 7 of the dice, and I think it's been so long since I polished this way that I forgot how long it takes. So I'm going to show you on the D6, and essentially we're really just going to polish one face because it's going to take that long to get the shine to the level that we're going to want it. Now, this method I'm going to show you is a very beginner-friendly method. This is not necessarily how I still polish my dice. Today, I have done a lot of things differently. I've gotten things like a vibratory tumbler and a Dremel, for instance, since I became a dice maker. But in the beginning, this is how I did it, and it's definitely how I recommend you get started with your polishing, because adding any other expensive gear like a vibratory tumbler just seems like a waste of money at this stage. And a Dremel actually has a pretty steep learning curve. You can definitely ruin your dice with one. So this method, while maybe a little bit more time consuming, is a really great method to get started in this craft and learn how to polish your dice. I'm going to keep this video at a pretty slow speed so that you can keep up with what is going on. Before we get started, you're going to want a nice flat mirror or piece of glass. This is just a tempered glass cutting board. You're also going to want a cup of water, some gloves, and the Zona papers we discussed in the last episode. As you can see here, the Zona papers do come as a full sheet, so I'm going to cut them up to fit my cutting board. Depending on what you're using as a flat surface, you might not need to cut them this small, or you may need to cut them smaller. It's really whatever works best for you. A lot of people also just do one Zona paper at a time and do all of the sides with that paper before moving on to the next step. I personally don't like to do it that way. I find this way is a little more time effective. And if I make mistakes or I'm not super happy with the polish of one of the sides, it's really easy to just go back and fix that mistake. Obviously, it's up to you. It's completely whatever your preference would be in this situation. So here you see me just laying out all of the Zona papers, making sure they're spaced pretty well. And then I use painter's tape to attach them to the board. Because painter's tape is used to moisture, because it's designed for, well, paint, it's going to hold up really well against the water that you're going to be using for polishing. Then you're going to make sure you put your gloves on, and if you're going to be using a polishing compound, go ahead and grab that and get that ready too. I am going to start on the one face. That's definitely the one on each of these that needs the most work. That's because the one face was right up against the cap, so that's where all of that flashing pulled off. So you're always going to probably see the most problems with the one face. I am going to polish this on the first Zona paper, which is a green Zona paper, until it is completely matte all the way across the face. If you still see a shiny little circle in the middle, it is not done yet, and you're going to want to keep going. Definitely check it frequently, though, because you do not want to oversand that one face and lose the number. So checking it a lot is going to help make sure that you don't lose that. This is going to be most important on that first green Zona paper and that darker blue that you see right next to it. After that, it's going to be a little harder to oversand with the Zona papers that are remaining. Now, I go through the pink, and if I think it's got the matte that I want, that is when I'm going to move on to the last two, which is like this light blue or teal and the white. And that is where I add my polishing compound. Now, again, this is an optional step. You don't need to use the polishing compound, but if you do, I recommend using it at a minimum of on this light teal and the white Zona paper. Now, unfortunately, the shinier it gets, the more you can see the imperfections. And once this was fully polished up, I was really unhappy with how that one face looked. You can see me here doing extra passes on that light teal. I'm really just trying to save it, but there's a lot of micro scratches. And honestly, there's even a little bit in the center of the one that I just don't think I polished well enough when I first started. So despite really trying to save this face here, you're going to see me try again on this white. I ultimately was not happy with it, and I'm going to start over. Now, when starting over, it is not always necessary to start with the green. I'm actually going to be starting with the dark blue in this situation because I really don't want to oversand that one. It is pretty shallow, and I think the dark blue is going to do a good enough job. So here you see me starting over, and this can happen, and in fact, it does still happen to me to this day as a dice maker. Unfortunately, sometimes you just don't see all the imperfections until you get it nice and shiny again, and in that case, I just felt like it really did not look good. So I decided to start over. I'm going to spend a lot more time on each zona this time around. These ones that I'm working on right now, the sort of light blue and the pink, do the best job of getting the micro scratches out, so I'm really spending a lot of time on this. This is only sped up 2 times. Imagine, if you will, this times 2. That's how long I spent on each of these colors on my second pass through. I'm liking it a little bit more now, so I'm going to very nervously move back onto the polishing paste, and I did at least 100 passes on both the teal and the white. I counted. You do see me going in circles. I should have mentioned that sooner. That just helps make sure it stays even. If you prefer, you can also go up and down, left and right, but if you do that, you're going to want to make sure you rotate the dice every 10 to 15 passes, depending on your sanding method of choice. So here we go. I spent forever on this polishing step, as you can probably see here, but I was feeling a little bit more confident that it was going to work out this time, and you're going to see here in just a second. It is looking much better, but still a little dull. So I took some LA Awesome on a little swab just to clean up the face, and perfect. This is the polish that I was looking for. There are still some micro scratches. I'm really blasting it with light so you can see them. That's not unusual, but that is at least a more acceptable level of micro scratches, in my opinion. And that's it. That is essentially the process of polishing, I guess, one face of your dice. You're going to now do that with every single side that touches the cap, or honestly, I mean, at this stage in your dice making journey, just clean up any of the faces that look damaged if there's any rough edges or scratches or things like that. Sometimes you'll have a side touching the cap that looks perfectly fine. Just leave it alone. At this point, I don't know if it's worth you stressing out over it, and you could certainly go back and just polish those faces with just the light blue or that white zona paper. So that is going to be a decision I'm going to leave up to you, but now you know the basics on how to polish your dice. That is going to be it for the week. I will be back next week, and we're going to talk about inking our dice. I still haven't completely finalized my schedule, but I will definitely have new episodes every Wednesday right here on my YouTube channel. There is a possibility that I'll have them Wednesday and Friday if I can come up with enough stuff to talk about. But for now, expect this So You Want to Be a Dice Maker dice making series to be on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. right here on YouTube. If you like this video, please click like. Please, if you want to see more content like this in the future, please click subscribe. And if you have any questions about anything you've seen so far or in today's episode, please leave me a comment and I will be sure to get back to you just as quickly as I can. I am still planning a video that's going to be addressing a lot of your questions, so look out for that in the future as well. And I will see you next Wednesday. We will ink this set of dice and I'm going to talk about how you can win it.